man, how do things add up to that much time? In this episode of the GMologist Presents, I answer a lot of questions from call-ins, and I guess that extends the time. And at the end, a recap and an unboxing of some cool products that I got and a cool game that I played with some awesome peoples. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the GMologist Presents.
Hey Carl, it's Joe. Just wanted to give you a call in and say thanks for doing the recap of our Reaver session, and also to thank you for joining us. I had a great time. I hope it wasn't too cliche, starting in a tavern and whatnot. But no, hopefully it keeps growing and we keep the sessions going. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to more recaps, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey Joe, thanks for the call in. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to the playtest. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about discussions we may have about the rules and the content. So I definitely hope to continue to help look at Reavers and how it evolves. Apparently, I guess according to what you and Jason were talking about, it's been evolving. So I'm glad I'm here, even if it's towards it might be still towards the beginning of the Reavers line, but towards the end of this first product. So I'm pretty excited, and I hope it continues to grow. Thanks again for the call. That's Joe Salvatore of Raven God Games.
Hey Carl, Jason here. So, reference advancement. It's interesting because I've played all three types of games. When you talk about straight skill-based games, like, basic role-playing games called Cthulhu, or, the Cyberpunk 2020 game we're spinning up is pretty much just skill points. As far as leveling up games, whether it's D&D or Ash, those kind of games, I'm fine with that. Savage Worlds arguably is a leveling up game, right? You could classify it either way. I could see actually Savage Worlds is more of a skill kind of thing. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. I'm okay with that. And then as far as no progression, ICRPG, at least in older editions, really is no progression because you progress by getting stuff. It's not leveling up. It's your loot that progresses.
Well, hey, Jason, thanks for the call-ins. Again, you've made a lot of call-ins this show, which is fantastic. So let's address your first point or your first set of comments. And it seems that you're not opposed to how we level up, and it is dependent on the system, and it doesn't bother you if it's a level up system, like first level, second level, like D&D style, or if it's a skill-based level up system, or even if it's just accumulation of stuff. I love how you highlight one of your favorite games, ICRPG, in that it's just getting more stuff. I guess there's advancement now, maybe more akin to, what is that, Solar Blades and Cosmic Spells. It felt like a little like that, like you roll a dice, and if you roll higher, it goes up that particular trait or whatever. So there's still chances to go up. I guess that's Black Hack, right? That's Black Hack style. So pretty interesting. I wonder, but I would really hope that people call it or listen to this and call in and comment about whether they they're not as easygoing as you, right? They might not be as easygoing as you, and why they like or dislike a particular leveling up system. So if those of you who don't like level ups and prefer skills advance or attribute advance, or just don't care and like that, hey, you start out really, really good, like in Shadowrun. Well, Shadowrun still with Karma, you can still go up, but it's slower and it's more the accumulation of stuff. And Traveler, like I said, it's extremely slow to progress. There's like a training rule set, but not really in the old one. I think it's only limited to like the newer, like Mongoose Traveler. And maybe that is to appease the complaint that, well, we don't level up. We just get stuff. So, well, I'd like to hear what people think about that more, just for my own elucidation and when I propose a game, or maybe like a tweak, for example, that was definitely a complaint in the rules as written for Star Trek. And it seems like they might have addressed that in the revised Klingon Empire version, where you could actually not just change, like you would get milestones and you could change some of your motivations or other things, but you really couldn't advance them. And one of the authors put sort of a addendum, FAQ, if you wanted to level up and what they were thinking, but never implemented it, as I think as a blog or something. And I found it, and I used that for our Star Trek game, and it actually satisfied the characters that they felt, well, now I can progress, because they wanted to progress. They didn't want to just stay, even though highly competent, just stay where they were. They wanted to, and I don't know if that mirrors the shows or not. Do the characters in the shows get better, or do they stay about the same? Do they just change their motivations and morals and drives, or do they actually advance? I don't know. I would tend to say they do advance, but kind of at a slow rate. So it's something to consider and ponder when you're proposing a game, I believe, and it'd be great to get some feedback. So thanks for that, Jason. And now we'll hear why you're not a big fan of Traveler. Mark Miller is probably upset.
So if I'm okay with ICRPG, now the newer editions of ICRPG, there is some actual advancement, but the older editions, all you advance with was loot, so it could be taken away from you, kind of like Traveler. So that's why I make that, analogy. But the difference is I find the ICRPG rules easy and exciting and fun, where Traveler rules just leave me cold. They don't do anything for me. And to be honest, I haven't really read up a lot on the history of the Traveler universe and all the mythos and all the world building and all that. And I don't know, man. That's just not the kind of sci-fi that excites me. It just doesn't. So it's not that I wouldn't play, but it doesn't excite me. So, Jason, you ask, what sci-fi games excite you? Well, most other ones. Star Frontiers, D6 Star Wars to some degree, Cosmic Blades and Solar Spells, Battle Lords of the 23rd Century, a lot of the other systems are pretty exciting. Or pretty interesting to me. Warp Shell, the ICRPG one, which has some analogies to like Star Trek away teams and things. But yeah, I don't know why, but Traveler and that universe and that trying to play more hard sci-fi, it's just not my thing. I don't know. I'm not saying I wouldn't play in a game. It's just not my thing.
I guess the proper question to ask is, what is your conception of Traveler? Or when you think of Traveler, what comes to mind? Honestly, if it's just space trucking, I can understand why it would be dull and boring. And some of these games that you highlighted, Star Frontiers, for example, you could have a game like Star Frontiers set in Traveler where you're exploring and finding new worlds and exploring contact with aliens and alien life, for sure, in the Traveler game. I like Star Frontiers, and I'd like to try to get not the Zebulon's Guide one, but the original one to the table. I think I've purchased or tracked down the first 3 adventures for the Volturna cycle, and it'd be fun to do a mini campaign with Star Frontiers in mind, or just doing Star Frontiers and see how that goes. And then, of course, I'd merge it into Traveler. No, I'm just kidding. You really couldn't because of the different alien species. Or maybe you could just reimagine those species as something else, right? I don't know what well, Rusk could be Hiver. Azerians could be Aslan. Dralocytes could be Hivers, right? Oh, I guess the Rusk wouldn't be Hivers; they would be Kukri, right? So, yeah, you kind of could. I don't know. Sathar could be Jordani, although Jordani are like the big boogeyman that will mind rape you and steal your thoughts and control you, right? That was a big boogeyman in the Traveler verse. And it would be cool to know what you think of Traveler and why you think it would be dull, because I don't think it would be. Those other games that you mentioned, those to me are not like space opera. Those are sci fantasy, Star Wars and Cosmic Blades and Solar Spells, or yes, which is Star Wars with the serial numbers filed off, right? Evil Empire. Although I really did like the Cosmic Blades that Eric Saul's wheel ran for us. Just some of the players, well, I don't need to get into that. I would love to pick that up again because I kind of like the space exploration that he was going to do or he was doing. It was kind of cool, and I like the sort of vibe of like a old decadent empire type of thing. So there you go. But like that Battle Lords, I could see that happening in Traveler too. Although I've been requested to run not Battle Lords per se, but more Warhammer 40k and probably Wrath and Glory, where you could play, depending on the level you set, you could play a Space Marine alongside a Inquisitor alongside a soldier. So maybe we'll see that in the future. But yeah, tell me what is your perception of Traveler, and why would it be boring to you? I guess that's the continuing conversation. And yeah, we'll see. I like some of those ideas, and we'll see maybe Star Frontiers or Warhammer 40k in the future.
To be honest, for the most part, a straight historical game would be about the same for me, I think. I think I'd be less interested in playing a straight Sharps Rifles game than something, kind of fantasy inspired by Sharps Rifles. And that's kind of interesting. And maybe that's part of my issue with Harn, although Harn has fantastical elements in there. But, the thing is, it's not that I don't like history. And if we were doing a time travel game where we bounced between hard sci-fi and Sharps Rifles and, different time periods, like, medieval times with Harn, I'd be down for a time travel game. But just a straight historical or straight hard sci-fi just doesn't seem that exciting. I don't know. Maybe that's the real difference between a beer and pretzels gamer like me and a real role player like yourself. Although, like I say, I would play all those games. They're just, like, if you put a list in front of me, I wouldn't vote for them. But if that was the next game we played, I wouldn't sit out. I would definitely play the game, and I'd treat it seriously. So, I don't know. Okay, let me listen to the session recap, see what I missed.
I really don't think that there's a distinction between a real role player and a beer and pretzels role player, because I always have beer and snacks, and they might even be pretzels when I'm playing. It makes no sense to me. And I think, as you know, I run and play a lot of different games because of that. Sometimes I want something that's, are they really serious when it's all elf games? I don't know. So, but some games take more thought and are less wacky. Maybe that's it's about tone, right? It's not, some games have a more, is serious the right word? I guess serious is the right word, for lack of a better one. Some games have a more serious tone. Some games have a more wacky tone. And it probably is dependent on the rule set. It's dependent on the mood and tone that the players decide upon or get into. The type of players that you... I would say Warhammer Fantasy, for example, has a serious tone, but wacky things happen. I don't know. That's an interesting conundrum, right? So I'm guessing what you would saying based on your call in is that you would something with historicalness in the background is okay, like Call of Cthulhu. So a Sharps Rifles that wasn't just we're just going to role play Napoleonics or the Talavera. It would be Sharps Rifles with some weird, and that's likely what I would do. I mean, it seems like you enjoyed my Roman Cthulhu Invictus Battle of Teutoburg Forest. That was historical, but there is weird shit going on in the background, and that's totally what I would do with the Sharps Rifles. I mean, and I wouldn't even let someone play Sharp. You play someone in Sharp's company, and Sharp would be an NPC. My wife and I just watched, I think it was on Netflix, it's a German production of Freud, and it takes place in the 19th century, Freud's early career, and he stops an occult plot, and it is definitely couched in history, but there is a hell of a lot of weird in it, and I think that Amy's like, my wife Amy is like, that would be a pretty Call of Cthulhu adventure. But again, see, I would make it so that the characters were the inspectors, the police in Vienna who were kind of part of the investigation, and not Freud or some of the other characters in the story. Freud would be an NPC you could go to, and he could give you clues, or he could help you find clues. But I really liked the inspector. So there's like an inspector, and then the inspector, like the sergeant that kind of hung out with them, which is actually very much like Ripper Street, right? It's like almost a German equivalent of the pair in the early Ripper Street shows. And Ripper Street, I would run something like that too. That'd be pretty cool. Of course, it would be probably a Victoriana type, either Victoriana with the weird, which would be kind of neat, or it could be a Victorian age gaslight Call of Cthulhu. So yeah, I wouldn't. Although, like when I did run like Musket and Saber, that was strictly historical. There were no strange or weird elements, really. There were some mystical elements, I would say, based on some of the experiences that some of the characters had, but and some of the things that happened to them were perceived as mystical, but it wasn't like Call of Cthulhu weird or fanciful weird. It was as if, we couldn't tell if, we don't know if this is true or not, what really happened, but we're going to mythologize it. So that could be kind of cool too. It doesn't seem like you would be interested in that. You'd be more interested in, yeah, this is full out. We're pursuing this occult and they're trying to summon a demon, type of thing. So actually, probably something you would really dig would be either Witch Hunter or Aquelarre, which are both steeped in the backdrop of history, but there is magic that exists, and I think that would be a pretty cool game. But another game that we love to hate, 7th Sea, is definitely like that. Things are couched in history, but they have weird and different names, and I wish the authors had spelled out why this is weird and different, or at least given the GM a hint as to why. I have my own ideas, and it would totally work. It's still hard to wrap around my head on the rule system. I think I need to run it or play it a couple more times. And so I did watch it when the actual author ran the game, and it didn't really help because the author house ruled a lot of things, and that was a little frustrating because I would have loved to have seen rules as written or heard rules as written and how it played. So maybe I just got to do some digging and watch some actual play. So yeah, if we wanted to run 7C, then I feel like I'd have to do that. It's a challenge, for me to listen to actual play. But hey, if that's what is needed to do some research, well, so be it. That would be good, I guess, to do. Here as I am doing some laundry, bear with me, throwing things from the washer to the dryer. Interesting. So, yeah, Jason, we just got to talk about it, or tell me, call in, tell me really like why those don't agree with you, or why those types of games don't excite you, or you would feel bored by them. And do you need something? Yeah, I guess we do. We want an escape. We want something different from the real world. I guess that's the bottom line, right? So let's do something a little different. Yes, we'll have something in history and then change it a bit. We'll do like the time travel-y thing that maybe you get to try to change history, or not necessarily change history, but, do something that might be important to keep history on the right direction. Cool. I do like the time travel idea. I'll have to think about it and explore, and we can explore it more. But thanks again for the call-ins.
That was a great session recap. I really enjoyed listening to it. For Burning Kansas, I'm sorry I missed it. If we ever revisit those characters, I'm definitely interested. Sounds like a great session. And Savage Worlds really does lend itself to having those lucky rolls. The dice can either be really with you or really against you. And although it is weighted towards the players, with a 4 or greater being success and all. But I think we're seeing how well Savage Worlds does work for all these games. I mean, you already knew how well it works, but it really does lend itself to these kind of games. So pretty exciting. We might be missing the ease and quickness of Savage Worlds in our next campaign or our next Thursday night game. We'll see. But thank you for that recap, Carl, and I will talk to you again soon.
Yeah, Jason, sorry you missed, but things happen. But Bones was there participating. He helped get Cad somewhat back on his feet, since you are kind enough to let us use your player character when you're not around. It helps. He shot at or injured some sand snakes maybe as well, some sand sneaks. So yeah, we're putting this on hiatus until let someone else take the reins of GM-ship for a little bit so I can play, because I like to play too. And Amy says she's going to throw some mushroom in with the pot roast too, which I guess is okay because I'm not a fan of vegetables, but I do like some fungi. Anyway, thanks for playing my game. Thanks for continuing to play. And we'll definitely have some more things to do in the future with this crew of cowpokes, as they're called. Will they still work with Empire? Will they do other things? Who knows? Definitely, I know Arlen really wants to find out who this laughing man is, who is Dr. Quinn, Mr. Quinn, Harlan Quinn. What's his name? Who knows? But what is this about this person with the strange Britishy accent, Englishy accent? Highfalutin accent. Went to Denver. Maybe you guys will find him in Denver. We'll see. Can't wait. And, someone else has some comments about that recap and that episode, and that person was there.
Yo, Carl, it's Joe. I'm out walking around right now, but I just wanted to call and say that I don't just call in for bennies, man. It's too late for bennies. We recently played the season finale of your Deadlands game, and it was amazing, man. I had a ton of fun. Everyone that I played with was awesome. You did a terrific job running the game. Everything went pretty smoothly. And yeah, man, it was awesome, dude. It really was. Fighting a giant goddamn bloodwalker. That was fantastic. Even though we knew the name. Oh no! That literally didn't take away any fun whatsoever. But dude, great stuff. Have a great weekend. Bye. Peace out.
Hey, Carl, it's me again. So I finally remember that question I meant to ask you during the Deadlands game. I do not understand how damage works in Deadlands. I don't get what the soaking means. I understand it in theory, obviously. Soaking, you spend a Benny, you soak the damage, you take less damage. But I don't understand how it works. Like, somebody did like 26 damage, but then that broke down into like 2 wounds and stun or something. Like, yeah, I just don't get it. And I don't get it not because it's complicated, but just because I've never read the rules. So yeah, I'm sure it makes perfect sense, but if you could explain that, that would be awesome. Also, I was wondering if the townsfolk, and we wouldn't know this, but this is just something I was wondering, were the townsfolk mad because the Empire Rail people were actually bad, or was there some demonic force like making the townsfolk mad or the Empire Rail guy bad? Anyway, man, peace out.
Hey, Joe, this is to try to answer your question. You roll to hit. You need a 4 or better, or to hit the parry on a melee attack. If you hit and you get 4 over what you need to hit, that is a raise, so you get to do an extra d6 of damage, no matter what the damage output of the weapon is. When you roll for damage, you roll your damage dice, and you roll, say for example, if you have like your Colt is a 2d6, if you get a raise, it's a 3d6. You add everything up. Unlike when you roll to hit, you just look for successes. In the case of damage, you add everything up. If you roll the highest number on the particular dice you're rolling, that is called an ace, and you get to roll that again. So you roll that again, then calculate all the damage together, and then you subtract the toughness of the opponent minus any armor protection, any armor piercing protection, or sorry, you subtract their toughness normally. If your weapon has armor piercing, you subtract any value from armor that contributes to toughness, and then you try to calculate the remainder of the damage. If it is equal to or up to +3, your opponent is shaken. Anything above that in multiples of 4, so 4 to 7, 8 to 11, 12 to 15, is an extra wound. So extras, so like the kind of mooks that you guys fire attack, they just need to get 1 shaken and a wound. So, if you have a toughness of 7 on an opponent and you damage them for 11 points of damage at least, they are out, right? Because that's going to be equal to and then +4 minus their toughness. So the wild cards, so like the big bads that you fight, they have as many wounds as you do, which is 4. So then you see how much damage they get after toughness up to that. However, you have the soak mechanic, so one can spend a Benny and roll your vigor to attempt to soak. And you can soak, so when that creature took 25 points of damage, ignore that comment about scissors. But so where were we? Right. So when you soak, you roll your vigor, and you need at least a 4, and that will remove 1 wound. Any raise after that removes 2 wounds. So that's how when this creature took 25 points of damage, it didn't die right off because I soaked a couple of wounds, so it was definitely badly injured, but not down and out. So that's generally how damage works in Savage Worlds. I almost said Pathfinder. I got Pathfinder on the brain now that you guys are wanting me to run some Pathfinder maybe one of these days. But don't worry about that mushroom comment, except for that 1 pack. Anyway, yeah, so that's how it works. I'm glad you played. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think it's cool to hear different perspectives of different plays. I don't know if you'll do a recap since I've done one, but it would be neat to hear your point of view. And yeah, maybe you can get bennies for the next time we play Deadlands. Oh, you had some other questions too. Yeah, I'll answer those in a sec. To answer your other question, definitely it seems that the Empire Rail were corrupt and took liberties and advantage of their power and position. I would say that once the Laughing Man gave poor Matthew Cooper that book, and Matthew read it and succumbed to the demonic forces I'm sure the town also was influenced by this demonic force and this continuing killing of anything associated with Empire and Empire Rail, whether they were corrupt or not. So maybe like the first, the Empire Rail guy, leader, and his cronies probably, sure, maybe they deserved it. But then after that, when people came to check up, Bill Marshall friend who came to check up on what was going on probably didn't deserve to die. Anyone who spoke up against or out against the unnecessary killing probably didn't deserve to die. So it got twisted about. But Bill Marshall might tell you, since he rolled a stupid occult roll, that's what the Laughing Man does. Causes chaos, causes problems. Let's see if we can pursue the Harlequin-styled Laughing Man in our further adventures. I hope that answers your question. You may have known that or gleaned that based on maybe post demon kill, going back to the Knucklemeyer Ranch. You could have gleaned that information from Quincy Nickelmeyer or some of the other villagers who seem to have a weight lifted from them. Too bad they couldn't catch old Claude Guilford, but hey, that's your hook, right? That's the carrot. Hopefully you'll follow it. I haven't done one of these for some time, but maybe it's time again. So I'm doing an unboxing-ish. I'm pretty excited about this. It is a envelope article, custom made. It is about fanzine size, 5.5 by 7 or 8. It is from Hungary, from Gabor Lux, Pex, Hungary. Pretty cool looking. Oh, it does say echoes from Fomalhaut on it, do not bend. So let's see which ones it is. I use a little letter opener slicer. It's like an envelope that is. This is likely for my DCC game set in our fictitious world of Fomalhaut. Okay, so there's the first layer. There's 2 layers, it seems. The outer envelope layer, which is good. I guess it's coming from overseas, right? And there are 2 mini packages inside. Again, do not bend. Packed really nicely. So it's actually the first of a couple orders I made to them. So let's see how these things look. They look great as PDFs. You order, the physical copy, and you get the PDF fulfilled through drive-through, which is very cool. So here's the first one, the fanzine number 1. Oh, that's a pretty nice. It's a nice little fanzine. It's a good size, easy to flip through. You can read it really well. And it came with not just the zine itself, but a map, like a fold-out map. Pretty cool. Actually, it's a map that's not annotated, so you could like put it on the table and say, "Hey, you guys are here, you guys are there," which is kind of cool. And it looks like it's a map of one of the cities they highlight in this particular zine. Or is it maybe it's one of the modules that they highlight in the zine. No, not the module. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's a module too. Doesn't seem to fit anything in here. I was curious. Is it this one? Nope, not that one. It must be a city that is located somewhere. Looks to be a port city. It's got some docks and stuff, but again, it's cool. It's not annotated, so you can stick it wherever. All right, that's the first one. The second envelope inside the envelope. So the first, it was Echo from Fomalhaut, issue number 1. Beware the Beekeepers is the main title. And this one, oh, this is even better. This one is issue number 8, Welcome to Castle Sulaw. And again, it's a really nice, this one is a number 8, so this is the latest one, and it is a little thicker. It has 2 foldouts. The first foldout being a map of Irillion, which is their kind of the island where a lot of the adventures are set. Kind of like you could do a mini campaign on it, which is kind of neat. And the second one is, it is the another map. Oh, and it's like so on one side of this foldout is Castle Sulaw, and on the other side is Thassin, which is the lands beyond the City of Vultures. Also on the same planet, I'm assuming, but somewhere different than Irillion. So pretty cool zines. I'm really enjoying these guys' products. Echoes from Fomalhaut, zines from the EMDT, First Hungarian D20 Society. I recommend them. Nice little zines. Not too expensive either, and you get the PDF. So I hope you guys order some, because I'm going to order more. Relatively quickly, with the shark in the background, I will record a recap, brief as it might be, of the game I ran this weekend. Today was not a super great weekend for gaming. Usually there is a couple games, but for one reason or another, I did not participate or they didn't make. Just a busy weekend for people, it seems. But this morning I ran a continuing sporadic Call of Cthulhu game for Jason Connerly and his son. And I'm calling it the Innsmouth Look. And there's some strangeness about wherein Jason's son's character, his name is Wyatt Dreyfus, might have that Innsmouth taint, but we're not sure yet. That's kind of part of the campaign. In the last adventure, he had gotten word from his mother that she had inherited a property near Innsmouth, Massachusetts. Familiar with the Lovecraft stories, the fall of Innsmouth, the whole esoteric order of Dagon, that is a big thing. It involves Deep Ones and Deep One human hybrids and all of that. And there is a question of Wyatt Dreyfus's mother's paternity, whether that basically Wyatt's grandmother had 2 husbands. The first one was from Innsmouth and was part of the influential Crawford family. And the other one was named, we decided, Gabriel Stewart. And that was the second husband that Wyatt Dreyfus's maternal grandmother had after she left Innsmouth and moved to Boston or New York. Currently, Wyatt Dreyfus's mother is retired and lives in Florida. So I think probably Dreyfus, I think we decided that Wyatt Dreyfus lives, his family lives on Long Island or Queens, and because he is a professor at Columbia, and he and his buddy Randolph West, Randolph is played by Jason Connerly of Nerds RPG Variety Cast, have gone to Innsmouth to check out this inheritance. The last time they found out that they inherited the property, they went to the property and they investigated around. It's dusty, it's decrepit, has no electricity. They had a friend of theirs that they had met in nearby Ipswich, who was an accomplice in their previous adventure. I think it's a woman named Elise Carter, something like that. And she has a cool car. So they took the train up to Ipswich and then convinced her to drive them to Innsmouth. They went to the lawyer, Rosla Marsh, who was oogling Elise the whole time, made them very uncomfortable. But they got the keys to the house. They checked out the house. They found some diaries, and they decided to read them. And that's kind of where we left off the last time. This time we opened with a dream that Wyatt Dreyfus had, wherein he was walking through the streets of Innsmouth and saw himself in a store window, and screamed when he saw that he had that Innsmouth look. And it was kind of cool because we opened the session with that dream and a sanity check. And Jason Sun's character, Wyatt, had to make the sanity check. He failed and lost some sanity. Woke up screaming. In the dream, he also punched through the window in frustration. So there was a sound of a window crashing that people did not recognize as such until later when they kind of put that together. So we went over again. It was kind of since we haven't played for a while, so we went over the contents of the journals because it had been some time. The contents of Jeremy Crawford's journal, who was, I guess, the great-grandfather of Wyatt Dreyfus, and the journal from the first wife of Jeremy Crawford and Elizabeth Crawford, who apparently disappeared at some point, and Jeremy was forced to marry somebody else who is unnamed in his journals. So possibly a hybrid of some sort, one with the Innsmouth taint. So the characters looked around the house. They previously had broken the door to the attic, and then they felt that something had escaped. They looked up in the attic again. They saw some chimney bricks moved. They searched the house again and saw that the window leaving from the kitchen had been broken, and whatever escaped was frog-like. Wyatt determined it was since they've encountered these creatures before, he kind of has been studying them on the side. Wyatt saw that it was a juvenile Innsmouth hybrid creature. So they decided, maybe not super wisely, to trapeze through the marsh and try to track it down. They could not. They got a little lost. Time went by. They kept going in a certain direction. Fortunately, they had some landmarks, so they didn't get super duper lost as they wandered through the marsh. And eventually they came to a house. And the house, they met a cool character that's in an NPC in the Escape from Innsmouth book, named Nick Casper. He's a trapper, but he doesn't go to Innsmouth. He's not one of the Innsmouthians. He's a trapper that works on the other side, of the hill, past the marsh, through this creek bed, and has done pretty well for himself. His father was a trapper. Probably his father's father was a trapper and all that. But they convinced Nick Casper that they were harmless and just lost and were hungry. So Nick Casper let him come inside, made him food. He wasn't too worried about them. He has lots of guns and lots of knives and axes and crazy stuff like that. So they made an ally, which I thought was kind of neat, with this Nick Casper fellow. And he agreed, after negotiating somewhat awkwardly for some payment, that he would help them track this creature, whatever it was, though he really doesn't like to run afoul of Innsmouth or people from Innsmouth. But he likes player characters. So they borrowed his truck and went back. they bought some supplies in town, found out some more information about the town from the grocery store clerk, who warned them to stay away from the marshes and from this particular street, or not street, but like he said the New Church Green. They decided to drive by New Church Green, and that's where they saw all the sort of the temple of the esoteric order of Dagon and the other churches that they suspected had been subsumed already by the cult of Dagon. They did not linger, though Jason's character wanted to linger a little longer, which was maybe fortunate they did not. Jason wanted to have Randolph West, make an excuse to use the bathroom at the esoteric order of Dagon. Maybe they could have pulled an Ozzy Osbourne and peed on the corner, right? That would have gone over well. If you don't know, Ozzy Osbourne peed on the Alamo a long time ago and was persona non grata in Texas for like 10 years. But money talks, so he can come back whenever he wants. I don't know if he'll tour here again because Black Sabbath gave their farewell tour a few years ago, but we'll see. Anyway, I did see him at an Ozfest once, where he did play with Black Sabbath, which was one of the coolest freaking concerts I've ever seen. It was Slayer, Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath. I think who opened for all of them? I feel like Lamb of God or someone opened for them. Anyway, it was a really great show. Had a lot of fun sitting on the lawn and watching at that Verizon amphitheater, which is closed now and is now a church revival place, ironically. Or a revival church place, ironically. So anyway, they met Nick Casper, went back to town, drove around. As they were leaving, they actually made a luck check. I use kind of luck. Luck is used in Call of Cthulhu as like luck. And they escaped detection from a police cruiser that was driving by. And they weren't driving Elise's tricked out fancy car, so just this Model T Ford truck thing, and they drove back to their place, and we decided to call it there before we got into it. The next day they're going to go pick up Nick Casper, and he's going to help him track and see what they find. So it was a fun session, good to get back to it. I hope we can get back to it more often so we don't have to reprise what happened the last time a lot. And maybe we'll get another player or two to play early morning sporadic Call of Cthulhu. It definitely is dependent on our schedules. And while mine and Jason's might be flexible, his son's tends not to be. So there you go. Good Call of Cthulhu. One of my favorite games, of course. I haven't played with my wife the solo that we're doing, and maybe we should have gone through it last night, but I'm just trying to find a good adventure to continue to see what she wants to do in the Arkham Veiled campaign. Anyway, I'll talk to you all soon, and have a good one. Shark says bye. All right, thank you all for listening. I'm going to bookend this episode. It's gone long, and I don't know how, but answering questions, I guess, and just talking about games kind of does it, because I like to do it. So now I'm going to, happy football day, although I guess technically last Thursday was football NFL day. Enjoy your day, you all. Enjoy your foosball and sports ball or football, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's nice. I don't have any games this afternoon, so I can watch some foosball. I'm pretty happy about that. I do like football, so undoubtedly there might be some football convo in my subsequent podcasts. I'm not playing fantasy football this year, so maybe I get to enjoy the games more, enjoy my teams more as opposed to tracking players. I have won the last 2 years in a row, and I guess they didn't want me to play anymore. Who knows? Or maybe I just missed the window. Why be paranoid about it, right? So, yeah, this week it looks like I have some games that you'll hear recaps from, probably towards the end of the week. This week I have a Twilight 2000 game on Tuesday, and then Thursday is our live Warhammer Fantasy game. So at least a couple games going on this week. And then the weekend looks like it'll be jam-packed as well with a game. Yes, our DCC fantasy game continues on Saturday, and then Sunday I think it's going to be our Hyperborea or Ash using Ash rolls, our Valuria game run by Arlen Walker from Live from Pelham's Wasteland. So everyone take care. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.